Hello and welcome to our first online chess club. Since obviously with social distancing we can't gather to have our own chess club and some people might not have their own chess set at home, I was going to show you today how to make your own chess set. So first you just need a piece of paper. Oops, excuse me while I do this. So you can either just use a single piece of paper and fold it down to a square, or what I did was I got a few pieces of paper, taped them together so that I could have a really nice board. The important part is that it's a square, because you need to be able to have 8 rows and 8 columns going down. So if you don't have scissors and tape at home, it is really easy to take a regular size sheet of paper and just match one of the short sides with the long side, fold it over, and then take that bottom piece, that extra piece, and fold that, and now all of a sudden you have a nice square. From there, you just need to be able to make evenly spaced lines. So this big one that I have is 16 inches across and 16 inches down, so my squares are 2 inches by 2 inches. On something a little bit smaller like this, if it's a regular size 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, obviously this side will be 8.5 and this side will be 8.5 as well. So a good thing for parents is that you can use this as, you know, a little bit of math instruction too. So if we have 8.5 inches and we want even squares, you know, how big do we have to make our squares? So after you have your nice square piece of paper, all I did was go through and mark every other one for me to color, and then I just colored them in. Real simple. And traditional chessboards are usually black and white, or like a dark brown and like a light brown tan color if it's a wooden board. But this is, you know, something for you to make at home. Get creative. Use whatever colors you want. I really like the colors blue and purple, but unfortunately I didn't have a purple crayon. So what I decided to do is, I'm a Slytherin, so I made myself a little Slytherin chessboard right here. So after we have our chessboard, we're going to set up our pieces. And again, if you don't have a chessboard at home, you probably don't have pieces. So get creative. Use what you have at home. And you can always share your ideas with us down in the comment section of this. So on one side, I have an array of buttons. So I'm going to use the little black buttons as my pawns and set those up. And you might want to, a good idea might be either take a picture of it after you have it set up, or write down on a piece of paper so that you can remember what your pieces are. So my little black buttons are my pawns for the dark side of the board. And then these little buttons that I have, they're going to be my rooks or my castles right there, just because when they actually stand up, they do kind of look like castles to me. And then, like I said, I have an array of unique buttons at home. So I also have these two that to me kind of reminded me of knights. So those are going to be my knights. Plain ones for bishops. And then I have another 2 set of buttons that are one's big, one's small. The king is generally the tallest piece on the board. So we are going to put these, so I said this is going to be the dark side of the board. The queen always goes on her own color. So if we were playing with a traditional chessboard of black and white pieces, the black queen would go on the black square and the white queen would go on the white square. That's how you know where the king and queen go. So we have it set up with our pawns in the second row right here. And then we have our rooks, our knights, our bishops, our queen on her own color, and our king. Another important thing that I forgot to mention right at the beginning is when you're setting up a chessboard, the dark color should always be to your left. So for the player on this side, the dark color is on the left, and for me, the dark color is on the left too. So I didn't want to use both people having buttons, so on the other side of the board, I decided to use euro coins. So I have 1-cent coins that I'm going to use for my pawns, because these are also, since they're different sizes, they're pretty easy to distinguish. My rooks were going to be little 5-cent pieces. My knights were going to be 10-cent pieces. Bishops are 50-cent pieces, and then I have a €1 and a €2. So my €1 is going to be my queen. So this is the light side of the board, so my queen goes on the white. And then the €2 is my king, so he's going to go on his side of the he's going to go on the darker color on this side. So as long as you remember which one is dark, which one is light, and that way you don't get your things messed up. I was trying to think about using American coins for one side and Euro coins on the other, but that would only work out if you have your king and queen be something that's not money, because there just aren't enough denominations of American coins. So that's how you set up the board. And for right now, since I do actually have a chess set at home, to avoid any kind of confusion, I'm going to use my actual chess pieces to show you how they move. So let me clear this off real quick. So this is just basic instruction on how chess pieces actually move, and the chess set that I have at home, again, I mentioned I'm a Slytherin. It is the Harry Potter wizarding chess. So I apologize that my pieces might look a little bit different than what you're used to. But this is what I have. So normally you would have, your rook right here, your knight, your bishop. This one is my king, and this one is well, this is dark. So the queen would go on dark and the king on light. And this is what my pawns look like. So to show you how the different pieces move, we're going to just focus on this side of the board right now. We're going to start with the pawn. He's the most basic one. Pawns on their first move, they can move 2 squares. After that, they can only move 1 square at a time, and they only go in a forward direction. Now, if they're going to capture somebody, and I don't have the other set here, so we're going to assume this is a piece from the opposing player. So pawns capture diagonally. So they do not capture forward, they don't capture back or to the side or anything. The only way that a pawn can capture is diagonally. So then that would be my piece, and then he goes forward from here. So that's pawns. Then we have our rooks, or our castles, however you want to say that. Rooks and castles only go forward and back, side to side. So they will never move on the diagonal. So if you're here, you can go forward. If you're here, you can go back, or you can go to the left or to the right. And that is the only way they can capture. So if I have a piece right here that I want to capture, that would have to be 2 moves. That would have to be, he'd have to move here, and then on his next move, he can capture that way. Doesn't matter how many squares you move, you can be here and move all the way across the board and capture that way. So our next piece is probably one of the more complicated pieces. It's the knight. So the knight moves in kind of an L shape. So the knight can move 2 forward and 1 over. So he could, if he was here, he could go 1, 2, and either move 1 to the left or 1 to the right. Or he could go 2 this way, 1 up, 1 up, 1 down. But it's always kind of an L shape. It's always 2, 1, or 1, 2. So he could also go 1 up 2, because that is essentially the same thing as saying he went up 2 over 1. And he can move, either side, backwards or forwards. The pawn is the only one that can't go backwards. So he can go backwards 1, 2, and then over 1. But if you'll notice, it's always that L shape. So that's him. And this is our bishop. So our bishop only moves on the diagonal. So if your bishop starts on a dark square, he will only ever be on a dark square. If you have a bishop that starts on a light square, he will only be on a light square. And you will have one of each. So you will have 1 light and 1 dark. So the bishop only moves on a diagonal. So he could, start out here, and if he wants to capture our little guy over there, he can whoop, all the way across the board and capture. So forward and back, forward diagonal, back diagonal, or forward diagonal, back diagonal, the opposite direction, the other way. Then we have our queen. Our queen is what most people consider to be the most valuable piece on the board, because she can move in any direction, any way. She can move at a diagonal, she can move straight across, she can move straight back, she can move diagonal back. So she has a lot of places where, you know, even if there was a piece right here, it'd be very easy for her to capture in 2 moves, going diagonal this way and then for the one to capture on her second move. So that's the queen. She pretty much goes all over the board. And then this is our king. So our king is going to start off on our opposite color since our queen gets her own color. So our king right here, he's the dark king, he's going to be on the white square. He moves 1 space at a time. So he can move in any direction, but only 1 space. Whereas the queen can move any direction, any number of spaces. So the queen can go from here to here, but the king can only go from here to here. So if the king is right here and he's trying to run away from somebody, he has a choice of any of these immediate squares right here. He can't go any further than that. So off to the side, or he can go diagonal to the back, straight to the back, he can go to the front. And that's the only way he can capture as well. So those are kind of the basic moves that we have for our chess pieces. If you have any questions, let us know down in the comments below, or you can even send us a direct message. Also, you know, how about the community? Show us what you're making for your chessboard and what you're using for your chess pieces. Do you have a better idea other than buttons and coins? Do you have something unique that you can make your chess pieces out of? Just let us know. And for right now, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week where we're going to talk about some different strategies of what you can do in chess and opening moves, stuff like that. So stay tuned. Be safe.